series of driver education training we've had for summits throughout the state. This is the actual last one. We're having it face to face, and we're broadcasting live and streaming through the web. My name is Ray Pizarro. I'm the director for the Education Examination Division. If you have to, the folks who are here, if you have to get up and leave, I'll ask that you kind of go through the back, meander back that way, so the camera doesn't catch you. Remember, since we're live, please refrain on commentary next to side-to-side bar conversations. We can go outside and have those conversations. Restroom are located outside. So we're gonna talk a lot about changes, right? We have a lot of things going on with the driver education, a lot of rules. This morning, the rules were just adopted, passed by the commission, and those rules are now slated to be effective on June 1st. You're gonna hear that date put out there a lot. The rules are about that thick, right? And today, what you're gonna hear in the PowerPoint is somewhat of a summary of what has happened and what changes have been made. This PowerPoint will be available to everyone on the website later this week, maybe. I don't want to commit our staff to a certain time frame, but it will be out there. So no need to take pictures of the PowerPoint. If you want, you can, but we're gonna put it out there. You're gonna hear about an overview of the Sunset Commission and who they are. You're gonna hear about that. So you need to understand what Sunset is. We're gonna hear conversations about laws and rules. There are some distinctions between laws and rules. You're gonna hear about legislative rule updates, instructor license, driver provider license, curriculum changes, new database system. All of these things are important because I really want you all to leave today with an understanding of what has happened and where we're going with the program and how it's going to affect you as a business person, right? As a provider. You know, the biggest question if I was in your shoes is, okay, things are changing. What do I need to do? Where do I need to pivot so I can maintain compliance, right? And we want you to maintain compliance. You're going to hear from our director from field and that there's been some changes on inspections. So you're going to hear some about that. And at the end of the PowerPoint presentation, we're going to open it up for questions. We want to hear from you. In the past summits from Dallas, Houston, McAllen, there has been some good questions that come out from those sessions. And we have actually updated the slides to reflect some of those things because we look at this PowerPoint, we've been looking at it for months now. And it's just seamless to us, but it may read differently to somebody else, to you guys. So that's why we want to hear these comments and questions. What does this mean? Oh, we'll change that so that it's a little bit more plain talk. So that's what's going to happen today. And at the end, we'll come together and we'll sum it all up at the end and get your questions answered as soon as we can. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to our Senior Deputy Executive Director for TDLR, Christina Kaiser, and she's going to talk a little bit about the changes and how this came about.
So is this a good place to stand?
A little bit more
Right
this
here,
way.
right here.
Okay. All right. Excellent. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Christina Kaiser. I'm the Senior Deputy Executive Director with TDLR. I've been with the agency for about 22 years, and so I feel like I've grown up right along with the agency. I wanted to just say a few words about what are we doing here? Why are we even here today to have these conversations in the first place? So as a state agency, TDLR is subject to sunset review. This is a review to determine whether the agency should continue to exist. There is a separate agency of the state of Texas called the Sunset Advisory Commission, and this is their job. Most agencies are subject to sunset review on a 12-year cycle, which means every 12 years you get evaluated to determine whether you should continue to exist. Not scary at all, right? So our sunset review by the Sunset Commission began in 2019, around August of 2019. And what happened was staff from the Sunset Commission came over and met with a whole bunch of our staff. There were probably 100 or more meetings with our staff where they learned about TDLR's processes, and not just for the driver education and safety program, for all of the programs administered by TDLR, right? So they met with us for many months, asked a whole lot of questions, dug around in our computer systems, all kinds of stuff. At the end of their review, in June of 2020, the Sunset Commission staff issued their public staff report. And in the staff report, they presented a series of recommendations for things that TDLR should do differently, right? So, important point to understand, the Sunset Commission's recommendations are kind of two different types. There are statute change recommendations, which require a change in the law. So for driver education and safety, it would be a change to the law that governs your program. And then there are also, aside from statute change recommendations, there are also management action recommendations. And these are things that don't require any change in the law, but they're simply saying, TDLR, you should do this procedure differently. So relating to driver education and safety in particular, there were both of those kinds of recommendations, along with recommendations that relate to a whole bunch of other TDLR programs that we won't talk about here today. But it's important to understand, as different folks talk to you today about the various changes that we're here to explain, some of these arose from statute changes, some of them are simply management action recommendations. So that staff report I talked about that contained both of those types of recommendations. The ones that were statute change recommendations were put into House Bill 1560, which was then filed in the legislative session last session in 2021. And in order for TDLR to continue to exist, to successfully complete this process, that bill had to pass last legislative session. And it did, thankfully. It passed on the very last day that the legislature could pass bills in 2021. We were sweating. We were like watching, just, on edge, but it passed. And so after the bill passed, TDLR continues to exist, but then we've got a lot of work to do, right? Because all these statute changes were adopted, and now it's on us. It's our responsibility to implement those things. So you will hear folks today talking about rules that the agency has just adopted. And the point of the rules is to further explain or implement the statute changes. Sometimes the rules are necessary to create procedures for something, for example. A lot of folks will explain that very thoroughly today. I hope that is a helpful explanation to kind of give you the background of why we're here today. In relation to driver education and safety in particular, I would say, as a general proposition, what Sunset did was simplify and modernize the regulation of your industry and remove layers of regulation that they felt were unnecessary. And so, of course, the legislature agreed with that. So the statute passed, and here we are. I wanted to just mention these folks here on the screen. These are our commissioners. Our commission actually just met earlier today in this room. Our commissioners are appointed by the governor, and this is the body that oversees TDLR and all of the programs that we regulate. One thing that's kind of unusual about TDLR as compared to other state agencies is that all of our commissioners are public members. And when I say public members, that means that by law, they're not allowed to have any direct connection to any of the industries that we regulate. So they come in the door to be commissioners, they know nothing, right? They know nothing about y'all or any of the other industries that we regulate. So to help TDLR's commission make the decisions that they need to make, we rely heavily on advisory boards for the different industries that we regulate. The advisory boards are people appointed by our commission who do have the industry knowledge and expertise. The advisory board for this program has been so helpful to us over the last year in figuring out how to take all of those changes in our sunset bill and make them a reality in the set of rules that just passed today. We have a couple of advisory board members in the room. Could I ask you to just stand up and introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Liz with A Plus Academy Driving School.
I'm Matthew White. I've worked with quite a few driving schools in the San Antonio area. I've seen learning faces, but Central Park, Drive to Pennsylvania, Texas, Better Driver Education, many.
Thank you. Are there any of our advisory board members online? I don't know. Are they able to speak or no? Okay, so if there might be some online, but they're not able to speak into the meeting, so I wanted to say thank you to the advisory board for all the effort that you've put in and all the assistance in helping us make these changes a reality. And one other thing I'd like to say, just because I'm right here right now, is I want to say a huge thanks to all of the TDLR staff who have worked on this. These folks here, right there, over there, these folks made this through. I could not have asked for a more professional group of people to put their nose to the grindstone and get this some work, and they've really done it. And I'm so very proud. And that's all I have to say, unless there are questions about the sunset process. Happy to answer those questions. Otherwise, I will yield the floor to Miss Dee Dee, the teacher.
Good afternoon, everybody. Like Christina said, my name is Dee Dee McEachern, and I'm the Director of Licensing here at TDLR. And one of the things I want to just give you today, my short time with you, is just going to be a brief lesson on some vocabulary that you're going to hear a lot. So Christina used the word statute. A law is the same thing as the statute, but the rules are different. So I want to tell you a little bit about the difference between a law and a rule. So the Texas legislature is the only way a law can be passed in Texas. They only meet every 2 years for 180 days. In those 2 years, there's only about 30 days left in this session that we have right now. They have thousands of bills introduced every year, but only several hundred pass. So it's very difficult to get a law changed. The TDLR writes the rules that administers that law and explains it and helps make it clearer and gives some of the interpretation and make it make sense, basically. Because there's the high virtue of the looking down from a pond and this is the way it should be, but then we have to figure out how to make that actually work. And so that's what the rules are intended to do, to actually make that law work in the reality of business and what you do. So the easiest way to think about it, and for me, I'm a very visual person, so I see a house under construction. And in our analogy, the house, the law is the foundation of that house. It's the cement that's actually poured, it's where the walls are placed and the windows, the number of stories, those types of things. Rules are like the interior decoration part of that house. They're the paint color, the flooring, the drapes, things like that. Things that are easy to change. Well, it may not be easy if you've ever done a home remodel like that. Things that can change, but they are easier to change than the law is. So my quiz for you is, who can change a law? Only the Texas legislature. So if we need a law change, the way we're here today, because the law changed, if a law needs to change again, it has to go back to the Texas legislature. Texas state agencies cannot lobby for law changes. We're not allowed to go ask. We know that this law needs to change. That has to come from the public. So if a law needs to change, that's where you need to go to your representatives and your senators and say, hey, y'all changed this law and it doesn't make sense. Here's what it should say. Or you change this law and we really like it. Can you go one step further, make it a little better? Those sort of things. But when it comes to the rules, that's TDLR. So we rely heavily on the advisory board to write and approve rules. They give us feedback because they have the perspective of you guys of being in the field and using these rules and applying them every day. They can tell us that rule makes sense, that doesn't make sense. If you change this one word, it will work for us. So we use the advisory board to help get participation on the rules. The public also gets the opportunity to give us input on rules as well. And Mark will talk more about that process of passing a rule as we go. But what I want to leave you with is the difference between a law, which is very difficult to change, and it's only done by the Texas legislature, and a rule, which is TDLR can change with input from the public. Okay, I'll hand it over to Mark.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mark Gladney. I'm the Assistant General Counsel for the DES program. I've been with the agency since 2017 and with this program since that amount of time. And just to kind of dovetail on what Dee Dee just told you, we're talking about laws versus rules quite a bit today. And why is that? Because laws are important and rules are important. You're expected to know all the rules and all the laws that are associated with your profession. Now, I know that sounds like a lot for you to know because, chapter 1001 of the Education Code, there's a lot of laws in there. And in chapter 84 of the Administrative Code that covers driver education and safety, there's a lot of rules in there too. But you're expected to know those things. If you violate a law, you can be subject to administrative sanctions, which could include even the loss of your license. If you violate a rule, the same thing can happen. So laws and rules work together hand in hand. Rules help to explain the holes that sometimes are in laws because the legislature doesn't know everything about your business. So they put out the broad strokes and then they rely upon the department to fill in the blanks. And we do that with the help of our advisory board. We do that with the help of our internal staff. And we do that with the help of you as well. And one of the ways that we do that is through our rulemaking process. Now, the rulemaking process is pretty painstaking. It's not necessarily, the way that a law is passed, but it takes quite a bit of time. The average rulemaking is going to take about 8 months. And this is the process that we use to do a rulemaking. And it's an 11-step process. And the interesting thing about this 11-step process is that there's at least 4 portions in these 11 steps in which the public gets to weigh in on how they would like to see the rules read. And you get to offer public comment, whether it's orally at a commission meeting or orally at a advisory board meeting or in writing. So rules just generally start pretty simply. They start with an idea. The idea can come from staff, it can come from the advisory board, or it can even come from you. You can file a petition for rulemaking and send it to the department and say, hey, I've got this great idea for a set of rules or a rule that can make life easier on all my fellow competitors in the DES world. And once we get the idea, we start working up the rule language, and we do an internal review and an analysis, often with the help of a work group that consists of advisory board members. And once we get the rule package all drafted, then we send it over to the governor's office because the governor has a keen interest in what goes on all the programs that we administer. And once we get the okay from the governor's office, then we send it over to the advisory board. And we have our first meeting with the advisory board. Now, in this particular case, we had our first meeting, I believe it was February 13th. And we brought the rule package that we had in front of them that implements the House bill that was passed. And we talked about how House Bill 1560, which really kind of radically altered the way that y'all do business. We brought that before the advisory board. We went through the rule changes with the entire board. The board gave us approval to publish it in what's known as the Texas Register. How many of y'all know what the Texas Register is? Okay, great. There's a smattering of y'all that do. And basically the Texas Register is kind of like the state's newspaper to publish what it is that an agency is doing that affects your particular profession. It's to let you know what your governmental units are doing on your behalf. And it also gives you an opportunity to say, hey, we like what you're doing, or no, maybe we don't like too much what you're doing. So there's a 30-day comment period after it's published in the Texas Register. And we also post new rule packages on our website. So if you don't know how to access the Texas Register, and you usually do that through the Texas Secretary of State's website, if you don't know how to do that, you can always go to our website and the rule package is right there. And you can go through it and you can look it over and you make notes and all that, and then you send us usually through email, but you can also do letters, I guess, as well. And you let us know what you think of the rule package and that we're proposing. You know, it may affect you in a positive way. It may not affect you in a positive way. You know, but we need to know that information. It's important that you communicate with us so we can create the best rules possible for your industry. So after the 30 days go by, we gather up all the comments that we get. And sometimes we get even oral comments, and we make a record of those as well. And we go back and we start reworking the rule package based on some of those comments. We may make some changes to the rule package. In this particular case, we had comments from about 15 parties, and we did make changes to the rules in two particular subsections of this rule package. And then we had a second advisory board meeting, I believe it was April 6th. We brought the comments to the advisory board, discussed with them, discussed the proposed changes. The advisory board thought about it, and then they recommended that it be brought to the commission for adoption. And then, I think somebody said, I think Christina had said, we had a commission meeting in here today to discuss this very package that affects your industry. And oh, okay. And after it was presented to the commission had a few questions about it. But after it was presented to the commission, the commissioners voted unanimously to approve the rule package. So you're going to have a set of brand new rules effective June 1st. So basically 30 days from today, you're going to have kind of a new Bible that you all are going to be working under for your businesses. And we hope that it's going to be an improvement and allow you a lot more flexibility to run your businesses the way that you see fit, but always looking at the idea that what you're here for and what we're here for is to make sure that we enhance public safety on the roadways as much as we possibly can. And that is the goal of the department, it's the goal of the advisory board. I know it's a goal, your all's goal, it's everybody's goal. Yeah, and that's what we hope that these new rules are going to do for you. You know. So as I said, the commission adopted it, and they'll be going into effect in 30 days. And that's pretty much all I have. I really appreciate your attention. And again, at the end of the presentation, we'll be here to answer your questions on anything that you have related to the rule package. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, guys. It's not a dance, I promise. My name is Laura Hernandez. I'm a licensing manager in the licensing division. I have a team of 14 that handles about 12 different programs. And for the driver education safety program, they handle the applications and renewals for instructors. So I'm here to talk to you about a couple of the changes that happened due to the House Bill 1560. So the changes to the driver training instructor licenses is that it eliminated the driving safety instructor license. It eliminates the supervising teacher, the driver education teacher, and the teaching assistant licenses. It creates a new driver education instructor license that goes into effect June 1st. This allows providers will be able to determine instructor qualifications for hiring and instructor training. That training will not need to be sent into TDLR. There's no GED or high school diploma requirements. An applicant must still be 21 years of age. They need to hold a valid Class A, B, C, or CDL driver's license that has not been revoked or suspended within the previous 3 years. And all DES applicants are required to submit fingerprints for a background check. All currently licensed instructors and teaching assistants will automatically be issued a driver education instructor license. So all current driver education instructor licensees should continue to renew your instructor licenses. The driver education instructor CE requirements has been reduced from 4 hours to 2 hours. The CE topics must include at least one of the following: driver education, driving safety, or teaching techniques. This diagram shows how those, again, those three licenses, the supervising teacher, driver education teacher, and teaching assistant license will now all be in that one driver education instructor license. And coming soon, I'm really excited, and we're all really excited about a new licensing system coming to the driver education safety program called VERSA. VERSA is not new to TDLR. Most of our health professions are all apply and renew through the system. So what this allows is for online applications, online renewals. No more sending in checks, money orders, waiting for your renewal notice in the mail. Those will be emailed to you. You'll be able to go online. Renewals can be as quickly as 24, 48 hours, continuing, assuming that you've taken your CE requirements, you check those boxes, and we can get that license out to you. So it'll be a much more efficient system. So we're really excited. Right now, my team of 14, only 4 people can handle those applications and renewals. This allows all 14 to go in and review those applications.
Excuse me, ma'am, will it be downloaded to us when we apply?
It'll be available on our
Or
website.
you're gonna send it in the mail,
We're gonna do both. Well, you'll get an online renewal notice.
so they
in the
can
mail.
start working right away?
Well, there'll be an online renewal, emails will be sent as well as paper if they don't go online, and you'll get receipts showing your renewal's been received and in the review process.
Because right now, the industry has a shortage of instructors, and we take so long to get a license.
We're
That
gonna-
we're still there.
Now, this is,
So the sooner we can get that renewal, you know, if you give us a paper online, bingo. we're-
yeah, we completely understand. And we can answer more of those questions at the end, but we understand this is gonna be much more efficient. It's gonna go from that, 1 to 2
Long
weeks to get there to like 1 to 2 days, 3 days. And we're hoping to have this out this summer. My team in education have been working really hard to make sure that it's working properly and it's user friendly, but we're hoping this summer you all can start utilizing that system. Next is Angela.
Hey everyone, my name is Angie Schmidt. I am one of the managers in education and examination, and my team oversees the driver education and safety programs, along with many others. Some of the changes for House Bill 1560, it updated the definition, including removing the term school and changed it to provider. That doesn't mean if the word school is in the title of your school that you have to go out right now and change it to provider. You do not have to do it. It gave us the leeway to use both. However, we did go ahead and change it to provider because it is more in line with our new licensing structure. This is our new driver education provider structure. Whether you have an in-person classroom, a parent-taught course, or an online course, what's the one main thing every one of you have in common?
Thank you.
You all teach driver education. You all provide driver education. So Sunset allowed us to create this new structure. There is one license now. No matter how you deliver driver education, you are all driver education providers. And there are endorsements underneath that provider structure, that provider license. The endorsement is basically your method of delivery. How many online? Do we have anyone in here with the online course or a parent-taught course? Are you all in-person classroom providers?
Yes.
Well, okay then. We're done. No, I'm just kidding. For your in-person classroom, that's your endorsement. Your first endorsement is free. As a driver education provider, you can actually have one of all 3 endorsements. You can be an in-person, you can have an online course, and a parent-taught course. However, if you currently have an online course, say I have Angie's Online Driving School 123, and I'm going to create another online driving school, Angie's Online Driving School ABC. You can't have 2 of the same endorsement under one provider license. If I chose to get another online course to create another one, I'm going to have to get another driver education provider license. There are some providers that have 5 parent-taught courses. You can't have 5 parent-taught endorsements under one provider license. You can only have 1. So that means they're gonna have to get 5 driver education provider licenses. It's kind of like your Class C license. We all pretty much should have a Class C driver's license. And we want to get that motorcycle. We want to decide we're going to be, you know, wild and free and want the wind in our hair. So we're going to ride a motorcycle. That's an endorsement on your Class C driver's license. It's kind of how this structure is. So to recap, a driver education provider, there's 3 endorsements. You don't have to have all 3. You can have all 3 if you want to, but it's only 1 of each type of endorsement. Branch locations, a licensed in-person driver education provider that has the same ownership and name as a primary in-person education provider, but it must have a different physical address from the primary provider. If you currently hold a branch license, your number will not change. You can only offer in person, but it must be separate physical address from the primary provider. Here's the new fee structure. You noticed it's gone down quite a bit. There's only the 1 license now. So that 1 license, your driver education provider license, is $500. Your first endorsement, which for all of you, it will be your only endorsement, is free. If you choose to add that second and third endorsement, then those are $300 each. Your renewal it's just a flat $100 because you're renewing your driver education provider license. The endorsements are tied to that license. You don't renew per endorsement, you only renew your provider license. We don't have any parent taught, I already asked that. There's big changes for parent taught driver education. Previously, they were not really licensed. A parent taught driver education provider was basically a certificate of approval. They didn't have to pay, there was no renewal, so it was just an approved course. Well, now they're right there with everyone else. They have to have that driver education provider license, which means they have to pay a fee and they have to renew. The approval number will no longer begin with PT, it will be a C, just like all the other driver education providers. They're subject to renewal requirements and course curriculum standards. PTDE providers who offer online courses must include measures to validate a student's participation, but they will not need to include content validation. And the reason for that is the PTDE provider is not the instructor. For a parent taught, it is either the parent or someone that the parent chooses to teach their child. So they are the ones that have to ensure that the child is gaining the content that they need. It's not the PTDE provider's responsibility for content validation. Some changes to bond requirements. Letters of credit and cash deposits are no longer permitted. Driver education providers will need to file a $10,000 bond. And parent taught, if that's the only course they have, that becomes effective November 1 for parent-taught driver education providers. They will have to apply, and they will also have a $10,000 bond. But if you have more than 1 endorsement, say your school and you wanted to create an online course, you still only have that one $10,000 bond because it goes with your provider license, no matter if you have 1, 2, or 3 endorsements. Okay, some repealed and deregulated courses. Effective June 1st, the 2-hour driving safety continuing education course and driving safety instructor development course have been deregulated. Why? Because the driving safety instructor license was deregulated. So there's no longer a need for those courses. Some other deregulated courses are the 4-hour driver education continuing education course and the instructor development course. As Laura said earlier, continuing education is now 2 hours for instructors. If you have an IDC course right now, an instructor development course, that doesn't mean you have to stop providing it. We just don't regulate it. There may be some schools that when they hire an instructor, they want them to go take that IDC course, and that's perfectly okay. They can still do that. You can still offer it. We just no longer regulate it. The younger than 25 driving safety course, the 4-hour seatbelt, and the DADAP, the drug and alcohol awareness course, those have all been repealed effective June 1. Now I'm gonna turn it over to Shanksy.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Shanasty. I am one of the team leads in the Education and Examination Division. My team consists of 4 people, myself and 3 others. And 2 of them are in the back, Jasmine and Ebony. My team, we work on laser hair removal, hearing fitters, mold, are a couple of other programs along with motorcycle. So thank you all for being here. Who has a driving safety provider license in the room? All right, so with House Bill 1560 changes, they changed the driving safety provider structure. Prior to June 1st of 2023, to become a driving safety provider, you had to submit the driving safety provider application. Depending on if you wanted to be just an in-person provider or an online provider, you had to submit the course application and course fees, which were over $9,000 for each of those. Plus, you had to submit a driving safety school application because that school, regardless if you're online, had to deliver the driving safety course. Well, the school has been repealed. Course applications have been repealed. And now to become a driving safety provider, it's the driving safety provider application that you'll send in along with a $500 application fee. The renewal process will pretty much be the same, just like we've been talking about with the new Versa system that will come into play. You'll receive a renewal notice and you will be able to go online and renew. Hopefully most of you will take advantage of that, and this includes the driver education providers as well. With the 87th legislative session, there were 3 other bills that were passed. These are curriculum mandated bills. So what the legislation did was they felt like these, House Bill 3212, street racing, House Bill 3319, move over, slow down, and the Senate Bill 1831, human trafficking, they felt this was important. These needed to be in your curriculum. So no later than September 1st of 2022, the entire driver education and safety industry was required to update their curriculum to start teaching, to include these bills in their curriculum. How many of you guys are teaching these? Perfect, that's good, good news. If you guys are not teaching if you don't know about these bills, especially the individuals who are watching us virtually today, please shoot us an email and we will be able to explain that process and give you more information on how to bring your curriculum into compliance. Part of House Bill 1560 changes is the how many hours per day that you can teach driving. So the total, including makeup, is 6 hours per day. And within that 6 hours, you cannot exceed 4 hours of driving. And out of those 4 hours of driving, you cannot do more than 2 hours of behind the wheel. And again, this does include makeup. The entire makeup policy has not changed. Under the attendance and makeup policy under Texas Administrative Code 8446, that's listed here. You can read that whole entire process. Like I said, that did not change. Only the total amount of hours that you could teach per day. All right, this is new for our driver education providers. The driving safety providers currently do this. They are required to submit data to TDLR within a certain time frame. This is student data. They report the certificate data to TDLR, and then the courts will go onto our website, the TDLR website, to validate a driving safety certificate. If you guys do not know what driving safety is, it is the 6-hour ticket dismissal course. So if you're driving, you get a ticket for speeding, you can go to court to get that ticket dismissed, and you would take the 6-hour course to get that ticket dismissed. So now driver education providers, including parent taught, will be required to upload their data to TDLR within 15 business days of each phase. So phases would be the classroom phase or in-car phase. There will be a full year to implement this process. Staff is putting together, my team, we're putting together some training. There's a template that will be sent out to everybody so that you have this. And we will hold your hand throughout the entire process on what you need to do, what it's gonna look like, what data do we want from you. And the data that you're going to be submitting is all on the DE 964 or ADE 1317. So who is a third-party tester in here? Okay, so you guys, so you all submit data to DPS. It's similar. It's the same process. Next. All right. Thank you all again. Questions at the end? Question, please. Eric Beverly, the Director of Field Inspections. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Great, thank you. It's wonderful to be here with you. Thank you for your interest in the changes to your industry. I'm going to be focusing today on a couple of changes related to field inspections. As has been mentioned, we went through our sunset review. House Bill 1560 has changed by law the way that we do inspections. They have asked us to conduct a risk-based inspection. So I'm going to be talking to you about two things today: conducting risk-based inspections and e-inspections, which is a new electronic inspection system. So the legislature changed Chapter 51, and we are now required to consider whether a license holder has violated a law, rule, or order of the commissioner or the executive director, and how many times they have done so. Kindly, the sunset and the legislature also gave us the flexibility to determine other factors that we consider important so that we can look at other criteria over time as we gain experience with conducting risk-based inspections. We actually began conducting risk-based inspections in the driver education and safety program in October. And we're looking at four main factors. Recidivism, it's a big word. What does it mean? It means for us that within the last 3 fiscal years, somebody has violated a law, rule, or order multiple times. So they may have committed a violation in fiscal year 22 and 21, or fiscal year 22 and fiscal year 20. So the good news for this program is that there were no recidivists, right? So that moves us down to the next tier, which is how did you do during your last inspection? And there are basically 3 flavors, right? There were no corrections needed, which means it was a clean inspection and no violations were found. That means that the risk of the business won't be enhanced. And so many of you are used to seeing us on an annual basis. And so if you didn't have any violations during your last inspection, typically you will see us yearly. The other situation is that there are corrections needed violations. And so these are lower level violations that we don't send off to the enforcement division. You are expected to correct them. And we will factor that in and may see you more frequently than a year. And the direct to enforcement violations, when we come out and do inspections, these are the highest level violations that we find. We do send those over to the enforcement division. You'll be hearing from them, and then we will also be coming out more regularly to ensure that you're in compliance, to make sure that we're all protecting the public health and safety. So we're looking at history of violations. We're also looking at last inspection date. For this program, it's a little less applicable because we see y'all so frequently, but we're wanting to make sure that we haven't missed any businesses. We get businesses that come over from different agencies. And so we're doing that look back to make sure that we have, that businesses have been inspected over time. And so that can be another factor that we consider. Next slide, please. So e-inspections. This is an opportunity that we had working with the Department of Information Resources and Microsoft to develop an electronic inspection system. It doesn't impact how we do our inspections necessarily, right? We'll come out in person or we may conduct a virtual inspection. But this enables us to stop writing on carbon copy paper. Many of you have had inspectors come out and they have Some of them have good handwriting, some of them don't have good handwriting. They write violations, they may describe the violations differently, right? So what this will enable us to do when your program moves over to Versa, we will be able to use our electronic inspection system. And so what we'll do instead is we'll use an iPad or an iPhone and we'll enter the information and you'll receive your proof of inspection electronically via email. And it will have neatly typed up information. If you have any violations, those will be included so that you'll know what you need to address. So my ask to you is if you have the opportunity to update your contact information, particularly your email information as we make this transition, hopefully in June, but at some point this year to Versa, that'll make it easier for inspectors. So thank you very much for your time and attention. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michael Fortstrong. I'm one of the managers in our Education Examination Division. And so you've heard a lot of information today, and my job here is to kind of give you a culmination of everything we've talked about so far. You heard from the very beginning from Christina Kaiser about what brought us to this situation, where we're at, and all the heavy lifting we've had to do so far. The new laws that came out, those laws have now pushed us towards development of new rules. And so that's what you see all of the staff here, you all here today is a culmination of all of that. Some changes that have happened so far that we didn't even talk about today that have already taken place. New advisory board members, we acknowledge some of them are standing here today. We really appreciate all of their help. That came about because of this HB 1560 change as well. Angie talked about several of the programs going away, DAP, driving safety schools, things like that. So advisory board members that sat there and represented those industries were no longer needed. So we had to go out, look for new advisory board members. There are a lot of changes happening in the background. And one of the things that we always try to make sure we're conveyed to you all is please make sure that you go to our website, sign up so you're aware of all of the initiatives and all the updates that are coming out and impacting your program. We don't want anybody to be caught in the dark about new rules or new laws that are coming out. You heard Shan talking about all of the bills that should be talked about in driver education, human trafficking, the additions to move over and slow down. We know historically within the driver education and traffic safety industry, we're a catch-all. Every time that there's a new initiative or something that comes through, it gets added into driver education, water safety, litter prevention, you name it, it comes in. But we want to make sure that y'all are aware of those changes. So please, sign up for updates just on our website, tdlr.texas.gov. At the very top is just sign up for updates. I implore y'all to go do that so you're aware of any laws, rules, advisory board meetings, or commission hearings, such as the one that happened this morning. So y'all can be aware of the changes that are coming. Some of the other work that we've done so far was the driving safety and instructor licenses were repealed last year. That's a big change for the industry. You heard Angie talking about the fact that now what used to be the driving safety school has gone away. There's, the driving safety provider, and then, they're controlling everything at this point. Eric talked briefly about the risk-based inspections. That was a charge from Sunset to us as well. They made these recommendations where TDLR would work smarter, using the data that we have. So when we're out in the field, we're making contacts, we have complaints, we see problems, or we write things up in inspection, using our resources more intelligently. It's also what you see in the change of the department recently, where when you contact us, you do so through a web form now rather than just emailing us. That allows us to be able to aggregate the emails that are coming in instead of an email that has no topic or telling us what the reason is about. It allows us to see what we're getting the most contacts about so we can fix issues in this industry and address them. And then for those of y'all online, if you have questions about this presentation or anything said today, we implore you to use that function. Contact us, send us an email, and our staff will reach back out to you and provide you any explanation that you need today. we've done a lot so far in the background, writing these rules, the development, working with the attorneys to get this heavy lifting done, working with our advisory board members and the work groups to help us craft rules that serve the industry. There's still a lot left to do. You'll see on the board right here that the rules must be adopted by June 1st. The commission met this morning and chose to adopt our rules. So it looks like June 1st, we will have these rules going into effect. It's important. If you haven't already, look at our website. The rules are out there. You can read through all of them. That's why we're here today and going around the state in the last month is to make sure everybody's aware of these rules that are happening, the impact that it has on your business. You saw the 6-hour change, for the amount of classroom that can be done in a day. That's a huge change. These are changes, a lot of these changes that came from Sunset were because they were involved in our processes. They were listening in the advisory boards for years. They heard complaints about lack of instructors, about needing to be more flexible with classroom hours. The 6 hours of classroom, that's a big change for you all. That allows you to be able to knock out module 1 within a day. Doesn't mean you have to. You can continue with your same way of doing things, but it allows you to be more flexible during high demand times, spring break, Christmas breaks. So a lot of changes are coming down and a lot of good ones are coming down through this. Where we want you all to make sure that you're engaged is as we continue down this process of rulemaking, adopting the next set of rules as we look into education standards and everything else, is we have adopted these rules to fit within the statutory framework that they gave us. You heard Dee Dee talking about it's kind of like building a house. They've given us the framework, and now we have to figure out what works together. We may think, hey, gray walls are going to look good in here, but it doesn't match the paint color that we chose for cabinets. So we got to come back to working with you all and say, hey, this doesn't work. So for example, we have the 6 hours of classroom that can be done. Or the culmination of driving. So you could do 2 hours behind the wheel. You could do more observation, whatever it might be. And you could come back and say, hey, but we still have this 10 hours of the instructors limited in the cars and rules. That's not working for us anymore. Can we look at addressing that? And that's where we want you all to be involved in those advisory boards, making your voice heard so that we can make sure we're putting out the best rules to serve the industry as possible. You saw as well talking today about PTD providers must be licensed effective November 1st. That is something that the industry has been asking for a long time, the parity to put parent taught on the same playing field as driver education. Angie explained it, I can't remember if she used the analogy of like kind of having a driver's license, the new structure of having one provider license. So your school becomes a provider, and then under that, you can have an online, in-person, or parent-taught. What that means is parent-taught providers now have the exact same provider license that you all do. So it holds them to the same set of rules, the same set of regulations, initial application fees, and renewal fees where they didn't exist before. So certificate standards, everything is going to now apply to them as well. And that's something, again, that y'all's voices were heard, and those changes came from that. Another big change, Laura, our licensing manager, she talked about our driver education and safety program coming into a new database. So the Versa system doesn't mean anything on the face of it. This industry, I know there were a lot of people that raised their hands about being third-party skills testers, correct? One thing that we know can be a detriment is if your license does not get renewed, either your instructor license or your school license doesn't get renewed on time. These students run to DPS the very next day, and they may get turned away if you're shown that you didn't renew on time. That could be a lag from us. It could be, a lag from you all sending things in. Whatever it might be, that student's going to turn around and come back and say, hey, I got turned away because your license didn't show valid. This licensing system allows for almost near instantaneous renewal. You go online, you're able to, upload your documents, pay your fee online, really bringing you all into the 21st century. When this program came over to us, it wasn't an old database. It's not even a licensing system. Laura kind of expressed those pain points where they can only have limited number of staff in there at a time. This allows all of our staff to work in there at one time. So processing times for new applications are going to come down. Renewals will literally be upload your documents, confirm your CE, pay your fee, and that's gonna happen right then and there. You'll get a confirmation email, and then your license will be mailed out to you. But in our system, you're gonna show renewed right then and there. So that's a huge thing for your customers, for you all, when it comes to third-party skills testing or any validation of your license. We can go to the next one. And like I said, we want to make sure there's a lot of changes coming today, and this topic and this discussion doesn't stop here. While this is our last informational summit that we're doing right now, the advisory boards, the information we're gonna put out, Shan talked about the driving safety data uploads that we're already doing, and then now we have the driver education data uploads that will be coming in, at least a year out. Those are things that we're going to be putting out information on. We're going to be discussing it within the advisory boards. So on our website, you'll see here, it says license types. You can go down driver education. You can check out the past meetings on the right-hand side. You can also sign up for updates. At the very top, you'll see file a complaint, email updates. Go in there, sign up for updates. Driver education, potentially motorcycle even. They're same roadway users you are. Some of their laws and rule changes they have pending may impact the other users on the highway. So you may want to be aware of that. But those past, even if you can't make it, it's hosting today and saying, hey, there's an advisory board and you can't make it. Those videos are still going to be available for you to view. And that's where you'll see the discussion about all the pending changes, discussions about implementing these new rules or new rules that need to happen. And that allows you to also come in and lend your voice to it and say, you know what? I do agree with that. We do need these changes, or we need to go this route with it. We can't advocate for you all one way or the other. That the voice is yours and yours alone to make it heard. Make sure whether it's the legislature or within an advisory board, if you want to see a change in the community, this is how your first stop of doing it is your advisory board. I think Mark pointed out multiple instances within that legislative and rulemaking process that you can make your voices heard. And we really do want to hear from you all on that. But yeah, and again, give you a second. So again, on our website, if you are, wanting to update your information, right now we know for renewal of licenses, things like that, if your contact information is not updated, you're not going to get your renewal notice. And moving forward, any of the contacts or anything that we're trying to put out there, we definitely want to make sure that you're getting these notices. There are big changes that are going to be coming. This is going to be information we reach out to. We talked about the driver education data uploads. We're going to be looking to have videos, PowerPoints, training sessions, even if that's through WebEx or anything else, where we're going to meet with you all and walk you through that process and what all of that looks like. This data upload process is something that's been in our rules for our law for a very long time, and something that Sunset pointed out we were not doing. And so these are all things that we're going to learn and work on and grow together on. So again, I'm going to be a broken record today, but sign up for those updates, stay involved, because we don't want to have you all get in trouble with field inspections or through a curriculum audit if we come through and see that you're not teaching something that you should be doing. Our goal is not to play a gotcha game. It's to make sure you're educated, you're informed, and that this industry is functioning at the highest level possible. And to finally recap today, we've had a lot of license type changes today, coming soon here on June 1st. We're going to see DAP go away. We're going to see a lot of, the 4-hour courses have already gone away, and a lot of changes. There's going to be some impact there. What does that look like? What does the landscape look like? You're going to have new provider licenses to offer a course. That's a big change, a big departure. You saw the lower fees. Historically, we've tried to remove, these gateways to entry, and those are things that you're seeing now. All the license types being the same fees, renewal fees coming down. These are huge changes to your industry. Your ability to hire new instructors based on the qualifications that you deem are important. They still have their criminal history check, they still have their age requirements and their driving history, but it's up to you to now say, I can hire the best and train the best person. Just because you had an instructor that worked in the field for 15 years at another school doesn't mean that when they came to you, you didn't train them, you didn't sit down with them, you didn't take time to analyze if they were good, bad, or otherwise. You still do that. Now this allows you to sit there and make the criteria of what you feel is the best instructor, allowing us to hire in a field that we know has struggled to find new individuals to come over. You know, and again, you know, a lot of these things that we're doing, we're trying to work smarter, and, you know, we can only do that with your help, whether it's risk-based inspections, it's curriculum audits, or anything in between, our rulemaking process. We are going to be doing this with the help of you all, and we're going to stay in constant communication to make sure y'all are aware of the changes that are coming down the road. So again, sign up for updates, and I think that's my last slide, isn't it? Oh no, I have one more. I'm getting ahead of myself. I kind of already said it, but you know, like I said, the listserv, the government delivery system that we have, I can't sit behind a desk and email every single individual in this industry, from instructors to school owners to providers, whatever it might be. I just don't have the capacity to sit there and do it. And if I did put that many people on a list, Outlook would think I'm spamming everybody and just put me in the spam folder. So sign up for those updates. You're going to see new website changes coming. Obviously, with program changes, we're going to have some website updates. There's a lot coming down the road. Really appreciate your time today. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for everybody that's attending online. Again, if you're online, we can't take your questions live, but please do email us. Go to the website, look for the driver education and traffic safety drop down, and under the school contact information, you'll be able to email our staff, and we will get back to you as quick as possible. That being said, we'll open up questions to the room here, and please be respectful. Keep in mind, we are still broadcasting this live, and if multiple people are talking, you may not be able to hear the other person's questions. So to make sure that the online people can hear your same question, allow people to finish without any of the background check, but we will get to every single person and go around the room.
So, guys, let me, based on what we've heard in the previous summits, because there's some of the folks may have some of the same questions, I'll tell you that a lot of the fear is, wow, this is a lot of information. What do I do? What do I need to do? How do I change? I hear all of this. Don't worry. We will walk you through this. As you heard, we're gonna have some videos, we're gonna have slides. You heard June 1, we're gonna implement. Angie and her team, they're testing this upload, right? We're not gonna just roll it out and say, have fun, good luck. You know, we're not gonna do that, right? We're gonna test it, and we're gonna test it again, and we're gonna use some of the advisory board members who worked with us to adopt these rules and make changes. We're gonna allow them to test it and say, hey, is this how it's supposed to work? Is this gonna be good for you? How is the user experience is gonna be? So we wanna make sure your experience with all of these changes are gonna be on point. There's some folks who are saying, what do I do? My license went away. Do I need to renew something? Am I gonna get anything? We will do that work in the background. We're gonna replace it for you, and we're gonna issue the appropriate license. So a lot of the things you won't have to do right away up front, right? But we're gonna walk you through it. You heard Eric. We're doing inspections already, e-inspections. You may have seen that, you may have not, but we're wanting it to be seamless and not painful, right? So we wanna make sure that you guys are aware that June 1st, yes, the rule's gonna be adopted, but if we don't have our system up and running, we're not gonna put it out there. We're not gonna let you use something that's not gonna work. Okay, so I just want you to have a little comfort on that. And I think Angie even said, we're gonna allow up to a year for, once we start getting that, right? It's about a year?
Yes, from the upload process, we're gonna give you a year to come into compliance.
Yeah.
Once it starts, and we'll let you know when that year starts ticking away.
Okay.
And technology's foolproof, so, I mean, I don't expect any problems.
So with that said, questions. I just wanted the folks online to hear that, because I don't want them to, because there is a lot going on, and I know there was a lot of worrisome folks in the previous summits, and I just want to make sure that that statement was said. Yes, ma'am.
I don't understand the 6-4-2, 6 hours of classroom, only 4 hours of driving, and then 2 hours what?
So the 2 hours, you're limited to 2 hours of behind the wheel instruction. And I don't know if we can put it back up on the screen.
Off on the slide, it's 6 total.
6 total. So 6 total hours of instruction can be given in a day. You can do up to 6 hours of classroom, but your driving time behind the wheel is limited to 2 hours. And she's gonna pull it up here, and it'll probably be an easier way to kind of visualize it as we talk through it.
Hold on, I'm getting there.
No worries.
There it is.
So you see here, it says increase the daily driving training education limit to 6 hours per day, which includes any in-car instruction hours provided to a student. So the in-car instruction may not exceed 4 hours. So, you could potentially do 4 hours of observation, but you couldn't do any behind the wheel training. And then if you did all of that driving within a day, you couldn't do any classroom, because they're still limited to 6 hours. But you could do 6 hours of classroom, but you would not be able to do any driving. So it's a culmination of these, but your limits are on the 2 hours of behind the wheel training and your observation, or your in-car instruction is limited to 4 hours. So it's an increase in your classroom, and where you're doing 1-on-1 before, it's allowing you a little bit more flexibility within the drive times without makeup sessions and everything else being thrown in.
Don't we do 2 hour, we do 1 hour driving, 1 hour observation?
And this
The
is,
total amount of drive time that we can only do now is 6 hours? Cause during the school year, we do 4 hours, 2 hour, two
This is-
different
this is
four
within a
kids,
day.
4 kids, okay. But then when summer comes, we normally go up to 8 hours. You do 4 hours, and then you take a lunch and do 4 more hours thereafter.
that's for
You're saying
you.
this to be out,
So that's for you on you're doing. Your students can't do that
She
much
means the youth.
instruction.
okay.
Staff is still limited to 10 hours of in-car for them. This is talking about the students' ability and how much they can do. Because your students are still, the 1-on-1 without makeup and everything else. And, but this is allowing you to do is 6 hours of classroom. You could potentially complete an entire classroom setting within spring break.
Yeah.
So,
Can I just make a comment based off that? I just wanted to just remind you of what the current rule says on 8446 compared to what it's changing to. This is what Texas Administrative Code is changing to effective June 1. Right now, it says that the driver education training provided by the school is limited to 5 hours a day, and it restricts the classroom instruction shall not exceed 2 hours per day.
So it's essentially lifting the classroom instruction and giving you an hour off of it. And so, again, this is gonna be available online. We're gonna be posting this presentation on there. So you have any questions, or even if you get back in the office and curious about how to implement this, you can. And just as a reminder, you can continue with your current way of doing things, the certain hours. This is increasing those thresholds for you to be able to respond. You have that student that shows up to drive, but then no one else shows up to observe and they can't get their observation hours. Well, then when other students do arrive, well, guess what? Now you have more observation hours. They can, get caught back up, because we know those drive times are hard when people aren't showing up, getting in there. And this is really going to give the flexibility back to you all to run your business as you see fit. I'm sorry.
Sir, I'm sorry. That would mean drive 2 hours, serve 2 hours?
You could, yes,
You
ma'am.
can do that.
And then you could have 2 hours left for a classroom at that point.
There used to be a rule that a kid couldn't be done in a week. Is that still gonna be effective?
No.
Okay.
You'll see a lot of times what we have done historically in this program. If y'all recall, there were a lot of regulatory burdens put on businesses that did not allow the business to operate correctly. There were hours of operation that you all could exist. This is the only industry I know of that has minimum fees in it. Those hours that you could operate were removed some time ago. Mark is always very proud of the fact that we came from 180 pages of rules at one point in time, and now we're looking at 80 or 90 pages of rules potentially. Some of that comes from being able to condense a lot of the rules that were duplicated in areas. Others were removing some of those burdensome regulatory provisions that existed. You still have your learner license hours that the students be held to drive within. But outside of that, if your business agreement with a parent is, you want to be able to drive them, before football practice or after football practice or whatever it is, you all should be able to enter that agreement with the parent and do those things. And this is really kind of giving, some of this framework and the direction we've been given is allowing you all to function in that capacity. Yes, sir.
You said 15 days to upgrade or whatever it was.
Upload.
So,
Now, what days are we talking about? Monday through Friday, weekends, holidays? Because that seems to be a problem.
It's just 15 days after the completion of a phase. If you have a class of 6 students and you complete module 1 on a Saturday, you have 15 days from that Saturday to upload that information.
Because I know Christmas and New Year's always brings a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And for some of us, we're the teacher, the janitors and
Right.
all that. So I want to make sure that if a holiday is not counted, just straight 15
It's
days.
15 days, yes,
Whoa,
15 working days.
just the calendar.
15 calendar days.
calendar days, not
Yes.
working.
Now, keep in mind, if you're closed for your business, right? And there's no, as Angie was saying, it's from that clock starts on the day you issue a certificate. So if you're closed for a whole month and you're not issuing certificates, well, you don't have a clock starting. There's nothing to upload. It just, the only time that 15 days starts is the second you issue a certificate to a student. There's now a clock on that to upload that data at that point. So if you run into a holiday or something like that, and you're not issuing certificates, there's no specific, like you have to do it every second Wednesday or, the 1st or the 15th of the month. If you took vacation for the entire month, you don't have any uploads that you're gonna do because you're not issuing certificates during that time.
We do third-party testing. A lot of students lose the certificate, the duplicate, all that would be every 15 days then we send your
Well,
report.
The duplicate, that
It's
would
a
be completion of a phase, but you would need to document. There would be codes like D for duplicate, and we will roll all that out. Like I said, we'll have it, we don't know 100% right now what it's gonna be, but once we decide and get that going, we'll have a year from that time, and we will train you guys and work with you guys. We will have screenshots and PowerPoints and videos on how this upload works.
Just remember, we're not introducing anything new. The same thing you write on that DE 964, the same information you are collecting at the end, and you heard the staff saying, at the end of that phase, I'm done with module 1. You write out that information on that DE 964, that's the information we need to be uploaded. So we're not asking for any new information. It's the same information as you fill out that DE 964, that's when you upload that information and you have 15 days. If you didn't fill out that DE 964, then you don't need to submit an upload.
It'll be very close to the
So it's
third-party skills testing stuff that you all.
Okay, do we do it on the 3rd day when we release so they can go get the permit? Or do we do it at the end of the classroom phase?
So, guys, I just want to be very clear, right? So this is something we're talking about that's a year down the road.
Yeah.
There could even be changes from what we talked about today. Shannon, when they were bringing this up, is alerting you to the fact that we have this statutory requirement to do, and we're gonna be building this process with you. The intent would be if you're issuing a certificate, so, the first 6 hours, so go get their learner's license or completion of, their entire process, driving and classroom, everything else. You're handing them that certificate, you're gonna upload it, 15 days or within 15 days after that.
All of your uploads should match what you have actually written out, whatever certificate. So if I have issued 10 certificates, you should have 10 uploads, right? They should match. Doesn't matter when you do it, how you do it, but you got 15 days to do it once you issue that certificate.
And if a student came in, they say they did module 1, you uploaded them, and they never came back to you, you never issued another certificate, they never completed a phase, there's no clock starting on you again. If they dropped out and they want to wait till they're 25 to get a license at that point. But if you issue that certificate, we're looking at that 15 days for you to upload that data and say, hey, TDLR, I issued this person a certificate and here's the data for it.
We'll walk you through it. It's gonna take 100 days. We'll walk you through it. It's a little bit easier when you actually see and you actually have your hands on it than conceptually, right? You're not gonna, so don't worry about that too much right now. We just want to let you know that's happening and you're gonna be required as a provider to do that, just like the driving safety providers. You guys are gonna have to report that as well. And this is, this is to have accountability on the DE 964s, to be in sync with DPS so they understand who's completing, to actually create an environment that is, students are learning what they're supposed to be learning. They are getting the certificate that they should be receiving. And we are, remember, Mark said this earlier, to prevent and reduce traffic accidents. In the last 6 months, we've had over 5,900 deaths on Texas Road. In the last 6 months, we had 5,900 deaths. All of you here and folks online and the folks here at TDLR, that's our charge, is to help educate and increase awareness, right? And help with safety.
Yes.
Everything we're doing, and you heard Kaiser said earlier, our deputy director, and all of the folks here, we're directed by Sunset. What Sunset had in mind was, you guys need to regulate safety, we need to reduce these deaths on the road, and our providers need to help us.
Yeah.
Right? Our providers are a tool. You guys know this. You're the instructor. You guys know those students and how to do that. They're trying to give and provide as many tools as possible to enhance that and provide that effectiveness from you guys down to the student. So that's kind of what this is all about. It's about education, safety. Those are our two biggest concerns. We'll get questions, what about this? Well, that's not, we regulate barber and cosmetology, right? And you have some folks would call the agency, I got a bad haircut. We don't regulate bad haircuts. We regulate safety. If somebody cuts you in the neck, we need to know about it, because or cut off your ear, that's a problem. You got a bad haircut, we don't regulate haircuts. It's safety. In this case, we regulate education and safety on the road. And that's our focus. So I just want to leave you with that. Yes, ma'am.
So with that being said, I'm so glad you shared that about the 5,900 deaths. A few years ago, I joined the Texas Teen Coalition, and the statistics showed that 99% of all fatalities in teens was parent taught. So I wanted to ask, are the parents, what courses are they gonna be required to take? None?
The parent, they are required to get the, what's the new title of it, Shan? The parent, the guide.
Oh, the
We changed the guy.
the parent designation services instructor guide, instructor designation service guide.
Right, the parent taught guide. Now, does that teach them to be a perfect instructor? No, it doesn't. But they should be going through that parent taught course with their child. Can we make sure 1,000% they're sitting there with their child? No. Can you? No. So it's up to those parents.
Yeah, and just, if I could share a quick example that I had, was going back and forth with the father. And I know I'm probably one of the strictest driving teachers in my area. And his dad said, oh, your standard's just so high. And I'm like, I'm teaching your kid how to drive. But when I got in the car with the kid and he said, yeah, my dad said he's gonna buy me a rolling cage. And I said, a rolling cage, what is that? And he said, because he knows that I'm probably gonna flip my car. So he's gonna buy me a rolling cage. So, and I kept telling the father that the kid couldn't drive. And he was saying, well, I don't have time. I work out of town. I said, I don't have nothing to do with that. You gotta drive your kid. And so I knew that he didn't do the 30 hours, but DPS don't require him to turn it in anymore. Yeah. And so we just kind of like, I'm so passionate about what I do. And I just feel like we just be, our hands are tied. And I called TDLR, and the young lady, she just told me, she was very nice about it. She said, just document, just document all this stuff. And so now every student, I write on their back every day. Turned into oncoming traffic, And I even went to DPS and I said to them, I said, I have a student who cannot drive. and he's going to pass your test. I said, is there any way I can flag his name? And they were like, unfortunately, if they could just do the basics. So that's where those 5,900.
Here's, I'll leave you with this also. It wasn't, we didn't say it today, but part of the sunset report, and again, I would ask you all, you all can go to the sunset and Sunset Commission and download that final report and read it for yourselves. But in that report, it directed TDLR and DPS to work together in developing and updating the DPS exam. Because I think when Sunset was here, and you heard Christina Kaiser talk about, they spent many of hours, hundreds of meetings, talking to our staff. They basically probed our staff, what are you doing here, what are you doing here? How's the provider teaching, what are they teaching from? The POI, yes, now how does that information translate back to DPS and their tests? And we're like, well, it doesn't, it's not our exam, it's DPS exam. So, you know, they take their notes, so that's some of the initiative. Okay, well, the two agencies need to come together.
Yes.
And you need to work together and update that exam so that the providers are teaching what they need to be teaching so that the student is learning the things they need to learn. To your point, is so if they fail the exam, and if we're testing them on what the things they need to know, then they won't pass that test, right? We do all kinds of other tests for different industries, just not this one. But that's one of the things that you need to focus on and that we're trying to focus on with DPS is to make sure that examination, that is their tool of minimum competency, right?
Yes.
And so if we're gonna do that, we need to make sure that education is at a level, right, that meets that minimal or tests that minimal competency. So that we're working right now, and Angie has many meetings with DPS on that.
We do, we actually have a meeting with them Thursday, I think, this Thursday. No, it's Friday. Also, and you mentioned the 30 hours, you know, there's the 7 and 7. We are going to have a phase 2. This June 1 wasn't the end all be all, because Sunset said you can also work on updating the curriculum. It's been the same forever. So we will be having a phase 2 where we're going to work with the work group members, and there may possibly be summits, kind of like we've been doing for this, that we are going to update the curriculum. Times have changed, so it's time the curriculum gets updated as well.
And there's a perceptional thing you talked about in there as well. We've long since heard this from parents. Well, what are you gonna do if I don't teach my kid? You know what? If you don't care about the life and safety of your child, then all I can do is just warn you about the dangers out there. So we do have to do a better job in our coalitions and all these meetings. We're talking to these teens. Years ago, seatbelts no one wanted to wear them. That was an inconvenience. Now we have a super high success rate on people that wear their seatbelts. Where did that start? With you all. That perception was driven into the safety aspect of it. And maybe that's where, when Angie's talking about, we get into the education, we start looking at driving safety courses, things like that. These parents drive every day. You know, you see everybody on their cell phones, you see these things. They don't see it as an inherent danger anymore. It's just driving.
Yep.
Well, my kid can do it. It's cool. Oh, a little crash. I'll give him a roll cage. You know, but I think about it, but the consequences don't resonate with them over this being something that's as fatal as Ray talked about. You know, and they don't correlate those things. They're like, well, they're driving, and yeah, if he digs it up, that's why I got him a crappy car. And you're like, well, at the same time, like this is one of the highest propensity ways for a child to die. And they don't understand that. And that's something that we're gonna have to work on as a community to educate the public on.
A couple of questions. Where'd you get that 5,906 money?
Textile.
And also on these inspections for classroom, driver safety, are they gonna announce themselves, introduce themselves, or is it gonna be anonymous?
Anonymous.
Well, no, so we do driver education, but not driver safety. School providers,
Yeah, no,
right, so driver education, and they're unannounced, unless we set up a virtual inspection.
Right.
And that would be coordinated so that, you know, we can interface via Zoom or.
So what you heard of phase 2, we're gonna look at curriculum. Those are things that's important. on, where we need to go. You've heard that we've worked with the work group of the advisory board. 2 members are here, and they're part of the work group to develop and introduce changes. But that doesn't mean you don't have a voice. You could, send in comments. You could actually reach out to advisory board members and say, hey, I have an idea on what needs to be changed with the curriculum. Present those ideas. One thing I would discourage from you of doing is don't say I don't like it without some sort of give us feedback, right? Give us something to do. If you say I don't like it, well, we're gonna go, I don't understand. Give us your change, right? How would you change it to make it more educational, if you will? So you guys have a huge voice. I've seen in other programs, most of the changes come from the general public telling advisory boards and sharing those comments and to the commission to make those changes happen by rule. Remember, those changes are by rule, what Dee Dee said, not law. We have to conform with the law. So there's opportunities here to improve and enhance the curriculum. I don't know anything about teaching driver education, so we're not gonna do it for you, right? We're gonna rely on the experts, and that's you guys.
Any other questions?
Yes. Before it expires in your license, is there a window that we can apply before it expires?
Yeah, we actually ask that you renew 90 days in advance right now. When we go to an online system, that should be a much faster renewal process. But right now, we always try to tell people, as soon as you get it in the mail, go ahead and start renewing it for your instructor license. And even your school license, while we're not sending those out, renew those as soon as possible. But going to the online system is gonna be a huge win for the department and for you all, because those renewal times will come down drastically. Not saying wait till the last day, but you will not be as stressed to get it in. So
Notices will go out to you.
Yeah.
On the school license, I can send my renewal the day that my license expires. That's the day of my bond. So I can't even send the renewal because I don't have the bond. And it happens every year.
Coinciding the bond with the renewal date and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, and these are, again, Angie mentioned phase 2 of our education rulemaking process. And this has been a struggle, if it's not lined
It's
up.
$100 payment. It's not that we cannot afford it, but it just, you want the bond with the renewal. And I can send the renewal 3 months ahead and my bond is valid, but it's gonna expire. The day it expires, my insurance company will send you the bond.
Understood, and those are things we can talk about, because when they weren't synced up, we had schools that would forget to renew their bond. And then if they closed, students were left in the wind with no compensation and, not meeting those requirements. So again, as Andrew said, we're going into a phase 2 after these rules are done. We'll continue to evolve these rules, and we always look at this program. I can't tell you, since Mark has been here, we're probably on our 8th iteration of rules at this point in time. And so that's something we can look at as well moving forward. Any other questions?
I got a quick question.
Yes.
On the third party testing, you were talking that if the student, if we lose our contract or the license and the student goes, he will not get his processing done because your license has been expired, right? So.
DPS can turn them away if you have an expired license.
Exactly. So I was thinking, if you guys can let us know, I know you said about the 90 days and all that, but if you can just let us know ahead of time, I know you got our email and everything.
Well, the Versa system, now it will send you renewal notices for your schools.
Okay, that's gonna change, that's gonna be much
Yes, it's
better
gonna-
because this way we'll know ahead of time and we can
Yes.
prevent all of this from happening.
Right, and when you renew, it's gonna happen so much faster, like we've been saying. And DPS checks the system, they validate that your license is good. So that's gonna help with all that, but you will receive school renewal notices now, and that hasn't happened in the
Ever.
past.
That's in the new system.
That's in
Because
the
I
new
know
system.
we got it in a frame and all that, but sometimes we don't look at the date and, you know, we're
You don't have
busy.
enough to keep up with it.
Yes, got a lot of things to do and.
The new system is going to, you know, right now, even on the instructor side, if you lose your application, you have to call into customer service, we have to manually send you another one. And those are the inherent issues we have because y'all aren't in a licensing system right now. Come hopefully June first, I won't say, maybe if we get into the final days of testing, maybe there's a week or two delay in there. We will announce that through listserv and on our website when it goes live. But it is going to give you those online renewals that Angie's talking about, that quicker renewal time. And, you know, so if you do forget, it's gonna send you an email and say, hey, by the way, you know, you need to renew. And you can upload your documents, you can do everything that you need to do online, and it'll really bring y'all into the 21st century. And you haven't been there, you know, right now you have to mail in a check, we have to wait on the mail, and it has to go through the mail room and come to us. And then if it comes to us and we're like, oh, hey, you forgot to send us something,
Yeah.
we have to send it back through the mail, and that's 3-4 weeks just in that alone.
I was gonna say that.
It's a.
And you won't just get the one renewal notice. I think you get one at 90, at 60, and 30.
Yeah.
So you don't just get the one.
And these will all be digital notices, not hard copies.
Right. Yes.
Email.
But you'll be able to pay with a credit card online?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
Cool.
So suppose I renew today, how soon will it, my school license today, how soon will it be in effect? This Friday?
Right then.
Right there.
If you have everything.
Yeah.
That you
The
need to have.
bond, the insurance, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, so.
I think we should get it.
Yeah. So for Versa, would this be for initial licenses as well?
Yes, ma'am.
What is the current process and time for licensing?
There she is, Laura.
Like me. So for current, if you're sending it in, it's still going by mail, right? So you still have to mail it in. So right now, we're about March 23rd, 24th, 26th, going into April, because that's what's coming from the mailroom. But so because we're going to Versa, we have to have everything done before that downtime, before everything gets migrated over. So we're working with the mailroom, we're working with finance to make you all priority, pulling those applications and getting our staff to complete them right away. So that date right now, it could be like March 26th. Next week, it could be April 15th, and the week after that. So we're just going as you come. If you have something that's before that date, see me after, right? And I can look into that for you. Or if you just have a concern, just let me know after.
I'm gonna do a little PSA right here real quick.
Yes.
Just like everyone else in this state, it's hard to hire people right now.
Yeah.
We have a lot of jobs out there and we're not getting any applicants. So to Laura's point, we have gaps and seats that are not filled and paper, you know, applications, paperwork coming in. And you don't have enough bodies to process it enough. And I think about that, you know, that cartoon with the octopus with the telephone doing that. That's how I feel sometimes. We're trying to, you know, tackle all of them. And then Dee Dee's folks, Laura and Dee Dee, they go over to the mailroom and have their people help them to process some of that mail. But then guess what? It funnels down, right? It trickles down to their staff and now they have a plethora of applications they need to run through and get it done. So it is a problem. We are having those issues, but we're trying to resolve them as soon
So
as
if
we
you have any family members that need jobs.
The remote?
DPS alleviated that problem. They went to 2 years on, I believe it's the motorcycle licensing for the instructor, in 2 years for our renewal license. Maybe in the future, you know, we're all having problems with employees. You should consider that.
Some of our licenses is a 2-year cycle,
Because
and we've had made those changes
stop
and stuff.
teaching, stop safety, and sit down and do all the paperwork.
Yeah.
You know, we could be doing better stuff.
Yeah.
If we could do it every 2 years, it would help everybody out.
I think we would,
Great suggestion.
I think we would love to go there. As far as I know, that's within statute for a 1 year in this program.
How did human trafficking get put under driver's education?
So that's a sunset initiative and, I mean, number one, we know driver education is a catch-all, correct? We did, you know, I didn't have a boat at 15, but we teach water safety and so, you know. But this isn't just a issue that plagues just driver education. This is an initiative that's going out not only to just industries that we regulate, it's going out everywhere, massage, bar, cause, many industries out there. This is a big issue in Texas. You know, there's a high propensity for people coming across the border, they get trafficked here. What's the number one way to become legitimate in the eyes of the government? A driver's license. That's why DPS puts such controls over it and everything else. So the likelihood that you could potentially see somebody coming in, or those students could encounter somebody, that's why it's an initiative throughout not just this industry, through all of them. And I know that we often, you know, get a lot of things added into driver education curriculum. This is one that the state sees as a problem throughout the state.
It's awareness. It really is awareness, and it's becoming a big, and has been a big problem in Texas. And a lot of to what Ford is saying, a lot of the industries, I mean, a good example, a lot of people don't even think about this. We regulate tow trucks, right? Imagine your little 18-year-old daughter, car breaks down at 2 a.m. Tow truck goes and picks them up, gets the car. Where do you think that young lady's gonna sit?
She can't sit in the truck.
Right? So, I mean, those are issues, right? We need to be very aware of who we're issuing licenses to. So all of these things, you know, you have a very good question that you're talking and you're asking, why does this affect? But when you look at the big grand scheme of things, there's a lot of little pockets where it's necessary to put those signs, put the signs in the bathroom where it's personal. And that person is by themselves in that restroom and they see the sign, if you need help, call here. So, you know, there's all these different things that we're trying to be aware. We have a trafficking unit team, TDLR, and we work with law enforcement to try to manage those things. It's a big endeavor.
And maybe that student in your car that day is someone that's being trafficked, and they saw those signs and it gave them enough courage to let you know what happened and what's going on and why they're there.
On our news up in North Texas, our news channels are real good about keeping us updated on all the information. I mean, because they see it on every day, you see what I'm saying, and they get it out to everybody to know about it. But right now, we're having 200 construction workers have been killed from people not slowing down and going slow, you know, like move over lane law. That's what it's supposed to be.
Our tow truck drivers, there are a lot of fatalities on them. The people that slow down and move over. It's interesting how the programs cross and they touch and affect each other.
And it's gonna be interesting to see where the education standards go moving forward. You know, historically, you know, Angie touched on this, the Sunset acknowledged that the POI that we have hasn't been changed in a long time. We went in and allowed you all, it wasn't prescribed by minute anymore because you needed some flexibility to add in some of this new stuff that was coming through. But we also know that there's things out there like vehicle technology. Well, it's one of the biggest changes in this industry is vehicle technology in the last 10 years. We still only have 15 minutes of it. That's huge. People out there think that right now their Tesla is fully autonomous. And then you see all these stories about it running into barriers. They have no idea what's happening with snow, things like that. That this is something that we need to make and educate our individuals on. You know, these companies are out there putting these warning labels on stuff, but people have a misconception on it of what the capabilities are. And you know, the same thing in those areas as well. We're gonna have to look at these education standards as a whole and say, what do we need to spend more time on? Where are we lacking or not even covering information? And so there's gonna be a lot of heavy lifting moving forward. And I mean, y'all's comments and, you know, being involved in that process is gonna be huge on us being successful in that moving forward.
And what works for a rural area might be completely different for an urban area, you know, so, and that's a big thing too.
Yeah, if I told somebody living in Austin about needing to move over for a cotton gin going down the road, they're not gonna have any idea. But you go out to like Lubbock or something, they're like, yeah, I passed 3 on the way in today. And so, you know, the inherent dangers and risks that we need to know about. Again, there's probably going to be a level of control that's put back into the school, allowing you all to focus and expand on Instead of just regimenting like, well, if no one got that within 15 minutes, we've got to move on. Instead, you can do like, my students didn't really get this. Let's take an extra 5-10 minutes and really break this down so they do understand it. Instead of just being like, sorry guys, I can't, we got to move on and move on with life. So.
Any other questions
I
from
think, did
you
you have a
guys?
question?
It was an inspection question.
Go ahead.
My very first inspection, when was it, last year? And we missed one thing on our inspection, and it was, our TDLR number not being on our.
Anything with our name.
Anything with our name on it. And I wasn't there, she was there, and I said, I should not have gotten dinged for that because I was told to put it on my car, in which I proudly did. And when she told me, I said, I was never told that. So now I'm thinking, I ordered new shirts, and they're on the new shirts. Do I have to go back on is it on this one? Oh, no, it's not on this one. On all of the old ones, do I have to go back and put the number on all of because I have a lot?
Go ahead.
So
Yeah. But before you answer that, I'm just gonna say this. I noticed how you just passed the buck and said, because I wasn't there. It's your fault.
No, I wasn't there to fight it. I wasn't there to fight it. So
Anyway.
I was trying to take up for her, and I was like, and he wouldn't wait. He did give us a compliment. He said everything was so perfect that I was like, well, just wait, let me get there. He's like, I don't have time. I gotta go.
Shannon, you got it?
No, not yet.
I'll tell you this, as every time an inspector goes out, their job is to identify where there's inconsistency, right? And to share it with you. These are the things you're not doing, and it says you need to do that, and they write, so, there was a bad, label, when the Barbara cosmetology program came over, because those programs thought, the predecessor agency, oh, they're just issuing citations. We don't issue citations, right? We can't do that. We tell you, these are the things you've done wrong. Fix it. And you go and fix it, and they're like, hey, we're good. See you next time, right? And you heard about the folks who are continuously doing the wrong thing. But if you do the wrong thing and you don't fix it, and 30 days come again, and you're still doing the wrong thing, they're gonna go, whoa, obviously you don't wanna play ball, right? You don't wanna do the right thing. So we're sending you to the principal's office, to enforcement. And enforcement's gonna come out and say, okay, here's what we're gonna do. So the days now, calling Shan or all of us, hey, help, sorry, you went to the principal's office. You've gone beyond compliance, you're in non-compliance. So as long as you guys take care of the issue that the inspector has said, just all you can do is look at it, fix it, and let them come back, and they're gonna say, okay, thank you for getting those things taken care of. But if you don't fix it, that's the problem.
And
you always wanna follow up and take care of it.
And if it's a rule that's burdensome to the business and doesn't make sense, let us know, because when we're opening up rules, we can always address those things and, look at what we're asking, if it makes sense, if it's adding a public safety or a benefit out there. So.
I believe it says on all printed material.
So that's what I was looking for. It used to say it must be
Like
on the contract.
Yeah, contracts.
Shirts were never a.
I don't think
Yeah.
those shirts
Looked
apply.
at.
Yeah, printed material is what I think it says.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
It
think
could be
it's
anywhere on the car, even on the very top, like, the
For the
top
chopper.
of the car, something like that, so.
So it was meant for like contracts, websites,
Yeah.
things like that. Not intended for, your shirts that you have
t-shirts.
everybody driving around.
That's
I
exactly.
love your
Those are
shirts.
cute though,
But-
yeah.
But that's exactly why we missed it, because we didn't have it on our shirts.
But I'll tell you.
Because you weren't there.
Because I wasn't there.
Those are things as well. I will not say we're infallible. We'll learn on things, and Eric is left for today, but we'll talk to them. And if there are rules out there that could be misconstrued, certainly let's say that if our inspectors is confusing them or it's not clear to you all, and we don't see eye to eye on that, well then there needs to be clarity in that rule that needs to happen. And then I point over to that man in the corner, Mark, and say, hey, we gotta fix this.
I got a copy of it.
I think
Of the
write-up.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Do they need to put it on everything, but you said contract, like a business course contract?
We'll have to look it up by rule, but it's in there.
Like, I think somebody said something about if we have a sign in front of the school.
The sign is.
Why do we put the, like, on the outside, you know, I understand the paperwork. But like some people that join online for when they're not even part of our school, sometimes they use those code numbers. When they apply, when they're registering, they ask like if it's a school or that. And they write those numbers. We were told.
They're taking license numbers and using them for themselves.
Yes. When they are not, they haven't been to our school, they're just applying online to do some, either, what is it,
The impact.
when they're applying for their permits or they're applying for, the impacts, you know, the views, even though they're free, they ask them. So it's like,
We're
I
doing
have my
like,
driver's license, but I don't have, you know, my regular driver's license. My personal, I don't put it out, or the police haven't asked, or, you know, say every driver in the state of Texas has to have their license printed outside their vehicle. Even if it's not for business, not because they need to have it. I know we have the license plates, but they don't have our regular.
we're making a lot of changes, and besides what you heard from, Eric on inspections, we're going to, my team is gonna take it to a different level, and we're gonna start doing audits. Audits on the course, audits on the school, and it's about to help the school understand what they need to do. It's about help you understand those numbers, so when Eric and his team come out and you're not there, she'll be able to, right, the rest of the team will know exactly what to do. But the onus is us to help you.
Yes.
Right? And so we need to be there, especially new schools. New schools open up and they have no idea what they need to do. They're like, oh my God, I got all of this. What do I do? How do I report these hours? Now this new upload is in place. How do I do that? So our team we're gonna put something together in the future, and that's what we're gonna concentrate on educating the schools and the providers. And that's for a lot of the different industries we regulate. And we're gonna be doing audits to make sure, hey, what you're teaching is what you should be teaching, right? And from the POI. So a lot of that's to come, and it's more us wearing the white hat and not the black hat, right? We're gonna go out there and try to help you guys make sure you stay in compliance to reduce those reoccurrences of non-compliance. So we'll get there, but it's gonna be a little while. Any other questions, folks? Staff, any other comments? Anybody has
I
anything?
just want to thank all of you for coming out.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Great
y'all been
questions.
wonderful. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Good to see you. Good. Yeah, Angie. Jerry has a question.
Thank you.